What actually happens during a chiropractic adjustment? Hi, my name is Dr. Andrew Newell. I am a chiropractor in Austin, Texas. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Here, I try and touch on some research, add a bit of light to what chiropractors are seeing every day in practice. So, if you're finding value from what we're doing, please like, subscribe. Let's get into it. If you've never been to a chiropractor, I know exactly what you're picturing. A loud crack, a twist, someone jumping on you, headlocks, ring dingers, town around the necks, all kinds of crazy stuff. Maybe you've even had a friend tell you they just pop you back. Honestly, I get it. I understand why people think that because from the outside, that's all you can see. What if I told you researchers have measured actually what happens inside the joint during an adjustment? Here's the reality. When people come into our office, they almost never ask, hey, can you gap my facet joint? Of course they don't. They ask things like, why does my back lock up every morning? Or why can't I bend over fully to pick up my grandkids? Why does sitting through a meeting make my back seize up? These are the questions that matter because they're affecting someone's life. So let's start with something simple. Every joint in your spine is designed to move. Not a huge amount. We're talking about these joints just through here. They move just enough. When they're moving, or I should say, when the joints stop moving well, a few things start to happen. The surrounding muscles tighten. The nervous system becomes more protective. Movement becomes uncomfortable. Over time, people stop moving, and this is where life starts getting smaller. I often think about the patient who tells me, I used to go to the gym 5 times a week. Now they just drive there and kind of sit in the parking lot because, not because they got lazy, but because they're worried their back isn't going to let them finish their workout. This is what we're trying to change when someone comes into our office. So, researchers from Spine Journal asked a surprisingly straightforward question. When a chiropractor performs a lumbar, so low back adjustment, does the joint actually move? Seems obvious, but until someone measures it, it's just an opinion. This study was published in Spine, one of the leading journals in spinal research. For the haters out there, they look at chiropractic, they look at PT, they look at acupuncture. It's not just chiropractic. But the researchers used imaging to measure what happens to the lumbar facet joints, sometimes called Z joints. Back in school, I was taught these are called zygapophyseal joints, but we'll call them facet joints for short. They're not big joints, they're tiny, they're small, but they guide the movement of the spine. So they looked at what happens in these joints before and after a side-lying chiropractic adjustment. They didn't just ask people if they felt better, obviously we care, but this was a research setting, so they measured the mechanics. Here's what they found. The adjustment created measurable separation or gapping between the facet joints. Not only more than simply lying on your side, more than changing position, the adjustment itself produced the greatest increase, the greatest movement in those joints. So, why does this matter? Those joints are not just pieces of bone. They are full of sensory nerve endings. They're surrounded by muscles. They're part of a very sophisticated communication system between your spine and your brain. There is this constant feedback loop going on between your spine and your brain all times, 24/7. Brain understands what the spine is doing. Spine tells what the body is doing. There's this constant feedback cycle. The researchers suggested that creating that small amount of separation in the joints may help in several ways. May temporarily reduce pressure in the joints. It may release tiny adhesions that develop over time. It may restore more normal movement. Perhaps most importantly, it changes the information traveling from that joint into the nervous system. Now, this is where I think chiropractic often gets misunderstood. People assume the goal is to make something crack. It's not. The sound is just a gas bubble forming and popping inside the joint. The goal is restoring movement, and it's those two things are completely different. This is where our office, I should say, is a little bit different as well. We practice what is called Blair upper cervical chiropractic. So upper cervical, we can serve with the neck. That said, we adjust whole spine because there can be huge benefits to adjusting the rest of the spine. Regardless, our adjustments are very gentle. There's no twisting, there's no cracking. We're not trying to make the joints pop. Instead, we spend a tremendous amount of time figuring out exactly where the problem is, because every person's anatomy is different. Precision matters more than force. So, does this study from Spine prove chiropractic cures back pain? No, but that's not what it studied. It simply demonstrated something very, very important. A chiropractic adjustment creates measurable mechanical change inside the joint. That's no longer theory. Researchers could actually see it. Here's the part that I think matters most. Like I said, nobody comes into our office because they want better facet mechanics. They come in because they want their life back. They want to finish 18 holes of golf, play with the kids, travel without worrying about the flight, walk around town lake, work in the garden, sleep through the night. The adjustment is not the goal. It is the vehicle. It is one of the tools that we use to help people get back to those moments. One thing to remember from all this: a chiropractic adjustment isn't about making something crack. It's about restoring movement. And movement is one of the ways the nervous system learns that it's safe again. This is what chiropractors have hypothesized for a long time, is that it's that neural input to the nervous system that really resets and changes how the spine then moves going forwards. Really interesting study from Spine that started to kind of look at this link and prove it. As I said, this then helps us suggest why we're of benefit to patients in the ways that we are, add some color to the science, add some color to practice. I'm a nerd. I found it interesting. If you did too, like, subscribe, and yeah, we'll try and get into more of this stuff as time goes on. Thanks.